We humans claim to be geniuses, yet we blamed a single squirrel for crashing the stock market. We blamed a goat for 70 years of bad baseball. We even declared war on emus with machine guns. And the birds won. You are about to witness the most ridiculous times we blame nature for our own stupidity. So smash that subscribe button, or a beaver might just eat your internet connection. 1. Humans spent $7 billion to build the Large Hadron Collider. Top scientists wanted to find the God particle. They expected to unlock the secrets of the universe. But then the whole machine shut down. Panic spread through the control room. A serious physicist named Dr. Hoffman screamed. He thought aliens were attacking the system. It was not aliens. A small fluffy stone marten had chewed on a transformer wire. The animal died instantly. The machine went dark. The smartest people on Earth blamed the weasel for being hungry. A janitor in the back just shook his head. He wondered why they did not buy a $5 fence. The universe remained a secret that day. 2. The CIA had a brilliant plan during the Cold War. They took a cat. They surgically implanted a microphone into its ear. They also put a transmitter in its skull. The project cost $20 million. Top agents gathered in a van to watch history happen. A strict general ordered the cat to spy on 2 men on a park bench. The cat did not care about national security. It wandered into the street. A taxi driver instantly ran over the $20 million agent. The spies in the van were devastated. A young intern asked if they should have trained a dog instead. The CIA blamed the cat for having a bad attitude. 3. The entire city of Chicago burned down in 1871. Everyone wanted someone to blame. A lazy reporter named Michael needed a hot scoop. He did not want to write about dry wood and wind because that is boring. He saw Mrs. O'Leary milking her cow in a barn. He invented a lie that the cow kicked over a lantern. The public went crazy with rage against the cow. A local butcher named Tony sharpened his knife. He yelled that he would turn that arsonist into a burger. The reporter admitted years later he made it up, but the poor cow went down in history as a criminal. 4. The Chicago Cubs were a baseball disaster for 71 years. A tavern owner named Billy brought his pet goat Murphy to a game. The smell was terrible. Security kicked the goat out. Billy yelled that the team would never win again. For decades, the fans blamed the goat for every loss. An old Uncle Bob sat in the stands crying. He watched his team lose another easy game. He screamed at a picture of a goat instead of the bad pitcher. The team management saved millions by doing nothing. They let a dead goat take the blame for 7 decades of terrible decisions. 5. Farmers in Australia had a problem with beetles eating sugarcane. A smart scientist suggested bringing in huge cane toads. He promised the toads would eat the bugs. They released thousands of toads into the wild. A farmer named Bruce watched in horror. The beetles were high up on the cane stalks. The toads were fat and lazy on the ground. They could not jump that high. The toads ignored the beetles and ate everything else in sight. Bruce threw his hat on the ground. The scientists blamed the toads for being pests. They should have just measured the vertical leap of a fat toad first. 6. The Nasdaq is the center of the global financial world. Billions of dollars move every second. Suddenly, the screens went black for 82 minutes. Panic erupted on the trading floor. A rich broker named Chad smashed his phone. He thought the economy had collapsed forever. He screamed for answers. The problem was not a crash. It was a squirrel in Connecticut. The rodent had chewed through a power line. The entire system shut down instantly. An electrician found the fried squirrel and laughed. The most powerful economy on Earth was defeated by a hungry rodent. Chad realized his money was safer under a mattress. 7. The U.S. military had a secret plan during World War II. They strapped tiny bombs to thousands of bats. The plan was to release them over Japanese cities. A serious general watched the test run in New Mexico. The bats were released. They did not fly towards the enemy targets. They just looked for a dark place to sleep. They flew under the fuel tanks of the U.S. base. The base exploded in flames. A young private watched the barracks burn down. He asked if the bats were on the other side. The military blamed the wild animals. They quietly canceled the bat bomb program forever. 8. A powerful leader in China ordered a war against sparrows. He claimed the birds were stealing grain from the people. Millions of citizens banged pots and pans to scare the birds to death. A wise old farmer named Lee shook his head. He knew sparrows also ate bugs. The birds died. Then the locusts arrived in a massive swarm. There were no birds left to eat them. The insects ate every crop in the field. A massive famine started. The government blamed the birds for being greedy thieves. Lee watched his empty field. He knew the humans were the ones who destroyed the balance of nature. 9. Paul the octopus was a celebrity in an aquarium. He predicted the results of World Cup soccer matches. He correctly picked that Germany would lose a big game. The fans went absolutely crazy. A furious soccer fan named Hans screamed at the TV. He threatened to turn Paul into a salad. Thousands of people sent death threats to a mollusk. A nervous zookeeper had to guard the tank. He told the crowd that the octopus did not play defense on the field. The fans did not care. They blamed a sea creature for their team playing bad soccer. It was easier than admitting they just lost. 10. The Great Barrier Reef is disappearing. Millions of crown-of-thorns starfish are eating the coral. Humans declared war on the spiky creatures. Divers started injecting them with poison one by one. A fisherman named Jack watched from his boat. He realized something funny. We had caught all the giant snails years ago. Those snails were the only things that ate the starfish. A marine biologist sighed on the deck. We removed the police. Then we got mad when the crime rate went up. We blamed the starfish for having a party. But we were the ones who took out the bouncers at the door. 11. Humans split the atom to create energy. We built the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. It cost billions of dollars to build. Engineers designed it to withstand earthquakes. They designed it to survive massive tsunamis. But they forgot about the goo. Millions of jellyfish called salps floated near the coast. They got sucked into the intake pipes. The cooling system clogged up instantly. The entire reactor had to shut down. A panicked engineer named Steve stared at the warning lights. He screamed that the core was melting. It was not melting. It was just full of jelly. The power company blamed the ocean life. They built a nuclear fortress but were defeated by slime. 12. The Australian government declared an official war on emus. They sent Major Meredith with machine guns. He expected an easy victory against flightless birds. He ordered his men to open fire on the flock. The emus split up and ran in chaotic patterns. The soldiers wasted thousands of rounds of ammo. They barely hit a single bird. A tired soldier named Daza wiped sweat from his face. He realized the birds were smarter than his commander. The government surrendered the war. They blamed the emus for being unexpectedly resilient. The birds just kept eating. The crops. It remains the only war where the birds actually won. 13. For 700 years, we blamed the rat. People died by the millions during the Black Death. Everyone screamed that rats were dirty monsters. A medieval peasant named John threw rocks at a rodent. He shouted that the devil was in the animal. He did not realize the truth. The fleas and lice were actually on John himself. Humans were the filthy ones who never bathed. Science later proved the rats were innocent victims. The rats were just trying to survive the filth humans created. We blamed a small animal to ignore our own bad hygiene. John scratched his head and kept blaming the rat. 14. The mayor of New York City wanted a photo op. He grabbed a groundhog named Charlotte for a holiday tradition. The poor animal was terrified of the cameras. The mayor slipped and dropped her on the hard ground. Everyone gasped in horror. A political aide named Karen quickly hid the animal. The groundhog died a week later from internal injuries. The zoo did not want to anger the mayor. They blamed natural causes for the death. They lied to the public to save face. A zookeeper cried in the back room. He knew Charlotte was murdered by a clumsy politician who just wanted a few extra votes. 15. Fish farmers in the South had dirty ponds. They imported Asian carp to eat the algae. It seemed like a cheap and easy solution. But then the floods came. The fish escaped into the Mississippi River. They started jumping out of the water like missiles. A boat captain named Mike got slapped in the face by a 20-pound fish. He cursed the day these fish arrived. The Army Corps of Engineers now spends billions to stop them. They blame the fish for swimming north. Mike knows the truth. We invited the monster in. Now we are mad that it decided to stay and ruin the river. 16. The entire island of Luzon went completely dark. Millions of people lost electricity instantly. Confusion spread through the streets. A grandmother named Maria panicked. She thought a military coup was happening outside. She grabbed her candles and prayed. Engineers rushed to the main power substation. They found the culprit fried on a circuit breaker. It was a single rat snake. The reptile had crawled in for warmth. The power company blamed the snake for trespassing. They did not blame their own lack of fences. A simple snake defeated the entire electrical grid. Maria sat in the dark and wondered why the power company was defeated by a reptile. 17. The U.S. Army had a bright idea in the 1850s. They imported camels to help soldiers cross the Texas desert. A tough sergeant named Bill tried to ride one. The camel spit right in his face. The horses were terrified of the smell. The soldiers hated the animals. Instead of training properly, they just gave up. They let the camels loose into the wild. For decades, people saw wild camels roaming Texas. A cowboy named Tex rubbed his eyes. He thought he had drunk too much whiskey. The army blamed the beast for being stubborn. They just did not want to admit they were bad riders. 18. An American farmer named Lyman saw a pig in his garden. The pig was eating his potatoes. Lyman got angry and shot the pig dead. The pig belonged to a British neighbor. The neighbor demanded justice for his bacon. The British threatened to arrest Lyman. The U.S. Army sent infantry to protect him. The British Navy sent 3 warships. A young sailor looked at the cannons. He could not believe he might die for a pig. Both nations almost started a war over livestock. They blamed the pig for trespassing. Lyman ate his potatoes in peace. But the world almost ended because of a hungry farm animal. 19. The internet stopped working for thousands of people. Google released a statement saying sharks were biting the cables. They showed a video of a shark chewing a line. People thought sharks were attacking our data. A teenager named Kyle was scared to go surfing. He thought sharks were evolving to fight humans. The truth was much more boring. Fishing boats and anchors break 99% of the cables. Sharks just look cooler in the news. The company blamed the predator to hide the truth. Kyle went back to gaming. He realized the sharks did not care about his slow Wi-Fi connection or his video games. 20. Pablo Escobar was a rich drug lord. He bought 4 hippos for his private zoo. After he died, the government seized his property. They were too scared to move the massive animals, so they just left the gate open. The hippos walked out and multiplied. Now there are hundreds of them in Colombia. A local fisherman named Juan saw a hippo in the river. He paddled his canoe away in terror. The government calls them cocaine hippos. They blame the animals for being invasive pests. Juan knows the truth. The humans were just too lazy to build a stronger fence 30 years ago. 21. Mazda had a major crisis with their cars. Their engines were not failing on their own. The problem was a tiny yellow sac spider. These spiders loved the smell of gasoline fumes. They crawled into the fuel vents to weave their webs. The pressure built up and caused gas leaks. A car owner named Steve smelled gas in his garage. He panicked and called the fire department. Mazda had to recall 42,000 cars. The engineers blamed the spiders for having expensive taste. Steve just wanted a car that did not double as a bug hotel. The spiders were just looking for a high-octane home. 22. The Soviet army needed a weapon to stop German tanks. They trained hungry dogs to run under vehicles with explosives. The trainers used their own Soviet tanks for practice. These tanks ran on diesel fuel. The German tanks ran on gasoline. In the actual battle, the dogs smelled the fuel. They ignored the enemy and ran back to the familiar Soviet tanks. A tank commander named Sergei shouted at his own dog. The dog blew up Sergei's tank. Instead, the generals were furious. They blamed the dogs for treason. They should have blamed the genius who forgot that dogs have noses. 23. Napoleon Bonaparte conquered most of Europe. He wanted to celebrate with a rabbit hunt. His staff bought hundreds of rabbits from a farm. They released the bunnies for the emperor to shoot, but the rabbits were not wild. They thought the short man was bringing them cabbage. They swarmed him in a giant fluffy attack. Napoleon dropped his gun in panic. He ran to his carriage while bunnies chased him. A general named Pierre laughed behind his hand. The most powerful man in the world retreated from a petting zoo. They blamed the rabbits for being aggressive. Napoleon just forgot that tame animals expect lunch. 24. A woman was found dead at the bottom of a staircase. Her husband was accused of a brutal murder. The trial was intense and lasted for months. Then the defense lawyer stood up with a wild theory. He claimed a barred owl flew into the house. He said the bird attacked the woman and caused her to fall. The jury looked at the lawyer in confusion. A neighbor named Karen rolled her eyes. She wondered if the owl also had a motive. The defense blamed a bird of prey for the crime. It was the only suspect that could fly away from the witness stand. 25. We mocked the dodo bird for centuries. We called it stupid because it did not run away from humans. A sailor named Barnaby landed on their island with a club. The birds just walked up to say hello. Barnaby hit them over the head easily. He bragged that they were dumb creatures. The truth was, the birds had no natural predators. They did not know what violence was until we showed up. We wiped out an entire species in a few years. Then we blamed the victim for not being afraid of us. The dodo was friendly. Humans were just terrible guests. 26. The city of Austin spent millions on a new emergency system. The police needed the computers to save lives. Suddenly, the entire mainframe crashed hard. The screens went dark, and the phone stopped ringing. A frantic IT guy named Dave opened the server room door. He expected a hacker or a spy. He found a fried frog on the motherboard. The amphibian had hopped inside and shorted the circuit. The city officials were embarrassed. They blamed the frog for the system failure. Dave just wondered how a multi-million-dollar security system was defeated by a creature that eats flies for a living. 27. Before GPS technology existed, the military got creative. They wanted to guide missiles more accurately. A scientist had the idea to put pigeons inside the nose cone. The bird was supposed to peck at a target on a screen. They strapped a poor pigeon named Bert into a rocket. The launch was loud and violent. Bert immediately got seasick and vomited. He stopped pecking and just panicked. The missile went off course. The military scrapped the project entirely. They blamed the bird for lacking discipline. They did not admit that putting a bird in a high-speed rocket was a crazy idea. 28. A French ship wrecked off the coast of England during the war. The only survivor was a small monkey dressed in a tiny uniform. The fishermen of Hardlepool found the animal on the beach. They had never seen a Frenchman or a monkey before. They asked the monkey a question. The monkey chattered back at them. The fishermen decided he was speaking French. They held a quick trial on the beach. They hanged the poor monkey as a foreign spy. The town blamed the animal for refusing to speak English. It remains the darkest and dumbest moment in the history of coastal paranoia. 29. A father and son were visiting Yellowstone National Park. They saw a baby bison alone in the grass. The father thought the animal looked cold and shivering. He decided to be a hero. He picked up the wild animal and put it in the back of his SUV. They drove it to the ranger station. The ranger, named Sarah, was horrified. She explained that the bison was fine, but now the herd would reject the baby because of the human smell. The animal had to be euthanized. The tourists blamed their good intentions. They killed a baby animal because they thought they knew better than nature. 30. Denmark is famous for fur coats. They kept millions of minks in tiny crowded cages. A mutated virus started spreading through the farms. It jumped from minks to humans. The government panicked immediately. They ordered the death of 17 million animals. Farmers cried as they buried their livelihoods. The prime minister blamed the minks for being a health risk. A scientist named Lars pointed at the cages. He knew the virus mutated because of the overcrowding. We created the perfect conditions for a plague. Then we blamed the fuzzy animals for getting sick. The minks paid the ultimate price for our fashion choices. 31. A remote worker named Kevin was in a crucial video meeting, was about to close a huge deal. Suddenly, his screen froze completely. The internet for the entire town went dead. Kevin screamed at his service provider on the phone. The company sent a repair crew to the woods. They found a beaver dam made of fiber optic cables. A beaver had chewed through the main line to waterproof his living room. The animal used high-speed internet to build a roof. Kevin blamed the beaver for ruining his career. The beaver just wanted a dry home. We built cables that taste like wood. 32. A naval commando saw something suspicious in the water. He spotted a dolphin swimming near the coast. He did not see a cute animal. He saw a foreign spy. The unit arrested the dolphin immediately. They claimed it had a camera and a weapon attached. They took the mammal to a secure room for interrogation. A guard named Ahmed demanded the dolphin confess its crimes. The dolphin just made clicking noises and asked for fish. The military blamed the animal for espionage. The world laughed at the news. The dolphin was the only prisoner of war who just wanted a belly rub. 33. A French town in 1587 had a vineyard crisis. Weevils were eating all the grapes. The town did not use pesticide. They sued the bugs in court. A serious judge appointed a lawyer to defend the insects. The lawyer argued the weevils had a God-given right to eat breakfast. The trial lasted for months. A farmer named Pierre watched in disbelief. He lost his crop while the lawyers argued with bugs. The humans actually lost the legal argument. The court blamed the farmers for not sharing. Pierre realized that suing a bug is the most French thing ever. 34. A hunter in Belarus shot a fox from a distance. He walked over to the wounded animal. He wanted to finish it off with the butt of his rifle. He held the gun by the barrel. The fox kicked its leg out in self-defense. Its paw hit the trigger perfectly. The rifle fired and shot the hunter in the leg. The man fell down in shock. The police arrived and wrote a report. They blamed the fox for armed resistance. The hunter went to the hospital in shame. He was the first man to lose a gunfight to a woodland creature. 35. We build massive airports right next to wetlands. We know birds live there, but we act surprised when they fly constantly. A pilot named Sully hit a flock of Canada geese. The engines failed and the plane went down in the river. Everyone survived the crash, but the media declared war on the birds. A passenger named Karen demanded all geese be deported. We blamed the birds for flying in the sky. We built a runway in their living room. Then we got angry when they showed up for breakfast. The geese were just following their map. We were the ones who got lost. 36. Google created a super smart artificial intelligence. It was supposed to organize all human photos. An engineer named Mark was proud of his creation. Then the users noticed something weird. The AI started labeling pictures of ants as delicious food. Mark panicked and checked the code. The algorithm could not tell the difference between a bug and a snack. The company blamed the ants for tricking the system. They did not admit the computer was just stupid. Mark deleted the code quietly. He realized that to a robot mind, everything looks like a sandwich if you are hungry enough. 37. A drug smuggler dropped heavy bags from his plane. He lost millions of dollars of product in the woods. A black bear found the bags. The bear ate $15 million worth of cocaine. The animal died almost instantly from the overdose. The criminal organization was furious about the lost money. The smuggler blamed the bear for being a junkie. He told his boss the bear stole the stash. It was the most expensive meal in history. The bear became a legend. The humans just proved that leaving drugs in the forest is a terrible business model. 38. 3 sailors caught the last great auk in Scotland. It was a rare and harmless, flightless bird. A massive storm hit their boat that night. The sailors were terrified of the waves. They decided the bird was actually a witch in disguise. They believed it was summoning the storm to kill them. They tied the poor bird up and beat it to death. The storm continued anyway. The sailors blamed the bird for the weather. They killed an entire species because they were scared of thunder. The great auk died because 3 men were too superstitious to check the weather forecast. 39. A fire chief arrived at a burning house in London. The family stood outside crying. The chief looked for the cause of the blaze. He expected a stove or a candle. He found a tortoise named Victor alone in the ashes. The angry reptile had knocked over his heat lamp. The lamp ignited his bedding and burned the house down. The chief wrote it down as an accident. The family blamed Victor for his clumsy walking. The tortoise just looked at them from his shell. He was the slowest arsonist in history. He proved that even a slow animal can cause fast destruction. 40. Thomas Edison was losing the war of currents. He wanted to prove his competitor was dangerous. He found a circus elephant named Topsy. The elephant had killed a trainer who abused her. Edison decided to electrocute her publicly. A crowd gathered to watch the science experiment. He flipped the switch and killed the majestic animal. Edison blamed the elephant for being a rogue killer. In reality, he just wanted a twisted publicity stunt. He murdered an elephant to sell light bulbs. The crowd clapped. Topsy was the victim of a corporate marketing campaign gone wrong. 41. Grace Hopper was a brilliant scientist working on a massive computer. The year was 1947. The machine suddenly stopped working. It was the size of a room. Grace opened the panel to check the circuits. She found a dead moth trapped in a relay. The insect had fried the system. She taped it into her logbook. She called it a bug. Programmers today still use that word for their own mistakes. A coder named Kevin stares at his screen. He blames a bug for his bad code. We have blamed a dead moth for 80 years of human error. It is the ultimate scapegoat. 42. The Air Force needed to test jet windshields. They built a cannon to fire dead chickens at the glass. It simulated a bird strike. A young recruit named Billy loaded the gun. He fired the chicken at high speed. It smashed through the glass and destroyed the pilot's seat. The engineers were shocked. They blamed the density of the bird. A senior officer looked at the mess. He asked Billy a simple question. "Did you thaw the chicken first?" Billy shook his head. They blamed the bird for being too hard, but they just fired a frozen rock at a fighter jet. 43. A woman was on trial for a terrible crime. She was accused of shooting her husband. The police had no human witnesses, but there was a parrot in the cage. The bird started repeating a phrase over and over. It screamed, "Don't shoot," in the victim's voice. The jury listened in shock. The defense lawyer tried to object. He argued the bird was lying. The family blamed the parrot for being a snitch. The woman went to jail because a tropical bird had a good memory. A detective named Mike smiled. He realized the parrot was the most honest citizen in the courtroom. 44. A massive whale washed up on an Oregon beach. The smell was awful. An engineer named George had a brilliant idea. He decided to use dynamite to vaporize it. He used half a ton of explosives. A crowd gathered to watch the show. They expected the whale to disappear. Instead, it exploded into huge chunks. Blubber rained down on cars and people. A chunk crushed a brand new sedan. George blamed the whale for being too dense. He did not blame his math. He turned a dead fish into a blubber bomb. The town smelled like rot for weeks. 45. The U.S. Army was running a serious training exercise. They used a $6 million tank. The commander ordered the turret to spin. It made a grinding noise and jammed tight. The crew panicked inside. They thought the enemy had sabotaged them. A mechanic opened the hatch. He found a fat raccoon wedged in the gears. The animal had crawled in to eat a candy wrapper. The general was furious. He blamed the trash panda for disabling a war machine. The most advanced weapon on Earth was defeated by a hungry scavenger. The raccoon just wanted a snack. 46. Drivers in Canada started noticing a weird problem. Moose were running out of the woods to attack cars. A driver named Sarah screamed as a giant tongue hit her window. She thought the animal was trying to eat her. The moose was not aggressive. It just wanted the road salt on the tires. The government put up signs warning people. They blamed the moose for having a salt addiction. Sarah blamed the beast for dirtying her sedan. We put tasty salt on the roads. Then we got mad when the locals came out for a free dinner. 47. People in the Middle Ages were very confused by nature. They saw cotton growing on stalks. They did not understand plants. They decided these were tiny lambs growing on trees. They called them vegetable sheep. A farmer named William watched his crop die in a frost. He blamed the sheep for not having enough wool. He did not blame his lack of botany skills. For centuries, people believed wool grew on sheep trees. They blamed the animal for a bad harvest. It was just a plant. But William preferred to believe in magic sheep than learn about farming. 48. Staten Island is under siege by gangs. But they are not human. They are wild turkeys. The birds block traffic and chase mailmen. A resident named Vinny tried to honk at them. The turkeys pecked his tires. He called the police to report a gang assault. The city blames the birds for being thugs. An ecologist named Lisa knows the truth. We killed all the foxes that used to eat them. We removed the predators. Now the turkeys run the streets like mafia bosses. Vinny just wants to get to work without fighting a bird. 49. 2 llamas escaped a trailer in Arizona. They ran into the streets of a retirement community. The police launched a massive manhunt. Helicopters filmed the chase live on TV. The llamas dodged lassos and police cars. The internet cheered for the animals. A sheriff named Joe was sweating. He blamed the llamas for causing civil unrest. He called them a public danger. The animals just wanted a walk in the sun. We turned a petting zoo escape into a national emergency. Joe finally caught them, but the llamas had already won the hearts of the nation. So there you have it. From spy cats to cocaine hippos, it is pretty clear that humans will blame literally anything to avoid admitting we made a mistake. If you want to feel smarter than the people who sued a weasel, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to BrainFumble right now. Don't forget to turn on notifications before a squirrel eats your internet cable. Now tell me in the comments, which excuse was the absolute dumbest? Was it the anti-tank dogs or the cat spy? Let me know down below.